you tell a kid, a vulnerable kid, over and over again that life isn't worth living, that violence is its own reward, and you add to it the kind of intensity that this music has, and you just might convince her.
I mean, sometimes I see these kids on the street, I never give them a second thought. I thought they were another silly fad, something that would be blown away by the next wind. I never thought it went deeper than that.
Silly fad, huh? Let me take you down to one of these clubs. You've got to see it with your own eyes to believe it, Quinn. I've seen children come off that dance floor with crushed ribs and bloody faces, like soldiers fighting some kind of insane war.
What could persuade a kid to act like that?
Maybe the greatest persuader there is, music.
I say we blow the fuckers up.
Working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face, no garbage like human race. Get a job working with a man, blow his brains out as fast as you can. Tell the judge you didn't light his face.
I hate everybody!
And now, for our feature presentation, Hardcore Beatbox Action with Deejay Punk-Roc.
city, I'm slick. So I think you better cancel your ego trip when you know damn well I'm out the funkiest shit. All you Robin leeches, biting my speeches. Rappers are religious, so the fresh one preaches. I'm tremendously miraculous, astoundingly sensational, amazing, fantastic, stupendous, educational, the shocking, exotic, hypnotic, erotic, psychotic, super jack, funky, snap, MC. That's me rhyming, gravity, trying to put you deep. Creating rap music, cause I never done disco. Couldn't catch the age, I'm feeling not Frisco. So rise and be lifted by the mentally gifted, charismatic, carnivore, sex savage. Greater, not lesser, the fresher, that dresser. Fly girl oppressor, that's way above average. Holy calamity, scream insanity. All you ever gonna be another great fan of me. Great, great. Like silk in the city, I'm slick. So I think you better cancel your ego trip when you know damn well I'm out the funkiest shit. All you Robin leeches, biting my speeches. Rappers are religious, so the fresh one preaches. I'm tremendously miraculous, astoundingly sensational, amazing, fantastic, stupendous, educational, the shocking, exotic, hypnotic, erotic, psychotic, super cat, funky, snap, MC. That's me rhyming, gravity, trying to put you deep. Creating rap music, cause I never done disco. Couldn't catch the age, I'm feeling not Frisco. So rise and be lifted by the mentally gifted, charismatic, carnivore, sex savage. Greater, not lesser, the fresher, that dresser. Fly girl oppressor, that's way above average. Holy calamity, scream insanity. All you ever gonna be another great fan of me. Great, great.
activity that appears to have no meaning.
done for me, Brian.
What's up? Can I get a response or something? There we go. From around the way, everybody. I see all the people. God damn. Yo. Come on, what's up with this? What's up, man? What's up, babe? Ooh. Ice water.
dedicated, you know, the rock steady crew.
To the old school.
You know, we all grew up right here,
Old
you know.
school.
We used to look up to them and we still do.
Word
Back in
up.
the day, word up. There's a lot of, you know, people here from all over the place. So, you know, glad everyone came out to represent and see where we chill at. Cause, you know, this is the park we at every night. Smoking blunts, drinking 40s and all that. So all of y'all get to get a piece of it. You know, see what, you know, what we do. You know what I'm saying? So, now, man, if you're ready, we can
Do
rock.
that thing.
If y'all know this joint, sing it. Word up.
Word up. Get that thing on.
Word up.
I called you up because you're listed in the phone book here under stereophonic equipment. So I was curious. I've got a pair of speakers here in my house, home stereo speakers, and they don't work no more. And I don't know. I think my son. I left the house and my son was playing his rap music there real loud, and I think he just blew him to hell.
Not going to be too many punks.
John, would you stop worrying about the punks? They're just a bunch of kids with growing pains. I mean, they'll probably be doctors and lawyers someday.
Motherfucking shit is real. Once again. Motherfucking shit is real. Once again. Motherfucking shit is real. Once again.